In the quiet town of Hearthwood, where history whispers through old brick walls and moss-covered stones, one woman stood against power, silence, and fear. What began as a battle over a fountain became a fight for heritage, memory, and justice. This is the story of Lena Porter, and how a forgotten law, a viral story, and the courage to speak out changed everything. My name is Lena Porter, and for most of my life, I thought of Hearthwood as home. Not just a town, a sanctuary tucked in the Colorado foothills, where stories whispered through the bricks of every home and the cracks in every sidewalk. My house, a 19th century farmhouse passed down through generations, was more than wood and stone. It was memory, and at the heart of those memories stood an old limestone fountain, carved by hand by my great-great-grandfather, a Union veteran turned stonemason. It had stood humming and moss-kissed for over 120 years. To me, it was sacred, but history, I would learn, means nothing to those drunk on rules. It began on an ordinary Monday morning. I opened my front door to find a letter pinned there. Like a warning, the logo of the Hearthwood HOA sat in the corner, embossed in navy. I unfolded it with mild annoyance, expecting the usual reminder to trim hedges or some arbitrary noise complaint. Instead, the words sliced through me: remove the fountain immediately, or face fines up to $5,000. The reason, not aligned with the community's visual harmony. At first, I laughed, out loud. Surely this was a mistake, a prank, but it wasn't. By Friday, I received my first fine $250, then another, then another. Calls to the HOA office were met with curt replies or vague referrals to the handbook, but no one could point to a rule that applied. Not really. Then came the day I came home to rubble. I had gone to town for groceries and returned to find dust in the air and tire marks in the soil. The fountain was gone, not removed, demolished, crushed into unrecognizable stone. No warning, no hearing, no courtesy. I stood there, keys still in hand, and felt the kind of silence that only comes after something is stolen from you. Something irreplaceable. I was furious, but beneath the fury was grief. The president of the HOA, Clyde Renshaw, was a former banker who fancied himself a gatekeeper of taste. He had a passion for beige, symmetry, and punishing non-compliance. Stories about him floated through the neighborhood like smoke. The woman fined for a non-standard mailbox. The couple whose shutters were deemed too colonial. I tried talking to my neighbors, but doors that once opened with ease now cracked only an inch. Some offered soft apologies, but most were too afraid to speak. Clyde has eyes everywhere, one woman whispered. He could take your home. Maybe he could, but I still had something more powerful, the truth. I started digging, literally and legally. Nights at the public library turned into weekends at the city archives. I scanned dusty microfilms, sorted through ancient zoning laws, called anyone who might remember how Hearthwood became what it was. I grew used to the scent of old paper and the burn of late-night coffee. Then one night, bleary-eyed and nearly defeated, I found it the 1987 Municipal Cultural Protection Ordinance, Clause 11B. It was a single sentence buried on page 112, written in the kind of language that begs to be ignored. But I read it again and again. It protected any structure or artifact over 100 years old, including ornamental and commemorative constructions of public or familial significance, even within HOA-managed neighborhoods. Gold. I filed a cease and desist against the HOA the next morning. I requested a hearing with the town's Historic Review Board. Predictably, Clyde dismissed it as a misunderstanding. But he underestimated me. What he didn't know was that my cousin Eva worked for the local news. When she ran the headline, HOA destroys protected landmark, fountain owner fights back, it spread like wildfire. By the time the hearing came around, Hearthwood Town Hall was overflowing. Locals, lawyers, reporters, even a historian from the State Preservation Office, all waiting. The boardroom fell quiet as I spoke. I brought photos, receipts, A copy of my great-great-grandfather's journal, with sketches of the fountain. The most damning piece, a set of internal HOA emails, leaked anonymously, revealing Clyde's plan to fast-track the fountain's removal for a private clubhouse walkway. He called it an eyesore in the way of progress. Then the state officer stood. "This site," he said, "meets all conditions to be declared a protected cultural parcel, effective immediately." The silence in the room was thunderous. The ruling not only made the HOA liable for illegal destruction, it obligated them to fund a full restoration, under public pressure and media scrutiny. Clyde Renshaw resigned within days. 3 other board members followed. I never learned who leaked the emails, but someone, somewhere, had decided enough was enough, with the help of preservation grants and a wave of community support. We began the slow process of rebuilding. We used salvaged fragments, photos, and the hands of skilled artisans. When the water flowed again, it was like hearing a song I thought had been lost forever. Today, a bronze plaque stands beside it, in memory of what we protect, and those who dare to stand alone. I still get letters, some from strangers, some from neighbors who once stayed silent. One simply read, "Thank you for reminding us who we are." This story wasn't about winning a fight. It was about what happens when memory is bulldozed, and someone decides to dig it back up. It was about courage, and law, and grief, and a small town learning to open its eyes. And it all started with a fountain, and a woman who refused to forget.